Thy word is a lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path.
Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be going through Psalm 3 in our reflections on the Psalms. Read with me in Psalm 3. Lord, how my foes increase. There are many who attack me. Many say about me, there is no help for him in God. But you, Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, and the one who lifts up my head. I cry aloud to the Lord, and he answers me from his holy mountain. I lie down and sleep. I wake again because the Lord sustains me. I will not be afraid of thousands of people who have taken their stand against me on every side. Rise up, Lord. Save me, my God. You strike all my enemies on the cheek. You break the teeth of the wicked. Salvation belongs to the Lord. May your blessing be on your people. Psalm 3 is a little bit different from the first and second Psalms that we had earlier this week. Psalm 3 is taken from the time of David when he fled from Absalom. The inscription reads, a psalm of David when he fled from his son Absalom, that we read about in 2 Samuel chapter 15. And one of the things that stands out to me about the third psalm is we see the trust that is conveyed in Psalm 1 and Psalm 2, the trust in God and the deliverance that comes from the Lord. Now we have it on a very personal level with David. David is going through immense personal anguish. He's been betrayed by his son Absalom, and yet he expresses great trust in the Lord. You look over with me in 2 Samuel chapter 15, and we see in verse 1, now it came about after this that Absalom provided for himself a chariot and horses and 50 men as runners before him. Absalom, he steals the attention of the people, and he rises early and captures the hearts of the people. And in verse 6 it says, in this manner Absalom dealt with all Israel who came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole away the hearts of the men of Israel. And so we have the affection of the people being stolen away from David by Absalom. And so Absalom, when he seizes power, the only choice that David has is to flee. And in verse 13, we read that a messenger came to David saying, the hearts of the men of Israel are with Absalom. David said to all his servants who were with him at Jerusalem, arise and let us flee, for otherwise none of us will escape from Absalom. Go in haste, or he will overtake us quickly and bring down calamity on us and strike the city with the edge of the sword. Then the king's servant said to the king, behold, your servants are ready to do whatever my lord the king chooses. So the king went out and all his household with him. But the king left 10 concubines to keep the house. The king went out and all the people with him, and they stopped at the last house. Now all his servants passed on beside him, all the Cherethites, all the Pelethites, and all the Gittites, 600 men who had come with him from Gath, passed on before the king. One of the things that we need to see here is David's not alone as he's fleeing. He has people around him, and yet one of the things that we recognize in Psalm 3 is that David is only trusting in the Lord. He doesn't build up this confidence or false sense of security. He knows that his trust is only in God. And we see in verse 19, then the king said to Ittai the Gittite, will you also go with us? Return and remain with the king, for you are a foreigner and also an exile. Return to your own place. You came only yesterday, and shall I today make you wander with us while I go where I will? Return and take back your brothers. Mercy and truth be with you. But Ittai answered the king and said, as the Lord lives, and as my lord the king lives, surely wherever my lord the king may be, whether for death or for life, there also your servant will be. Therefore David said to Ittai, go and pass over. So Ittai the Gittite passed over with all his men and all the little ones who were with him. While all the country was weeping with a loud voice, all the people passed over. The king also passed over the brook Kidron, and all the people passed over toward the way of the wilderness. You see here Ittai staying committed to David. And I think right here with Ittai and his faithfulness and loyalty that he shows to David, it's really just a reflection of the loyalty that David showed to the Lord. That he is just seeing the positive qualities that David has shown every day, his faithfulness and trusting in the Lord. And Ittai wants to serve the Lord because of the example that David had served, that David had shown to him. And then we have in verse 24, now behold, Zadok also came, and all the Levites with him, carrying the ark of the covenant of God. And they set down the ark of the God, and Abiathar came up until all the people had finished passing from the city. The king said to Zadok, return the ark of God to the city. If I find favor in the sight of the Lord, then he will bring me back again and show me both it and his habitation. But if he should say thus, I have no delight in you, behold, here I am. Let him do to me as seems good to him. The king said also to Zadok the priest, are you not a seer? Return to the city in peace, and your 2 sons with you, your son Ahimaaz and Jonathan the son of Abiathar. See, I am going to wait at the fords of the wilderness until word comes from you to inform me. Therefore Zadok and Abiathar returned to the ark of God to Jerusalem and remained there. And so we have David, he has the high priest, and he has the ark of the covenant being brought to him to show that God's with him. And yet David doesn't need this external display of God's favor to reflect his trust in the Lord. He says, no, send the ark back. He will trust in God no matter what. And that's one of the things that we can also learn from, that we don't need external signs from the world to show us that God's favor is upon us. We're going to trust in the judgment of the Lord. We're not going to try and force God's favor upon us. We're going to simply serve him faithfully. And we'll trust in his love. And we have later on, when we have David being cursed in chapter 16 and verse 5, when King David came to Bahurim, behold, there came out from there a man of the family of the house of Saul, whose name was Shimei, the son of Gera. He came out cursing continually as he came. He threw stones at David and at all the servants of King David, and all the people and all the mighty men were at his right hand and at his left. Thus Shimei said when he cursed, get out, you man of bloodshed and worthless fellow. The Lord has returned upon you all the bloodshed of the house of Saul, in whose place you have reigned, and the Lord has given the kingdom into the hand of your son Absalom. And behold, you are taken in your own evil, for you are a man of bloodshed. Then Abishai the son of Zeruiah said to the king, why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Let me go over now and cut off his head. But the king said, what have I to do with you, O sons of Zeruiah? If he curses, and if the Lord has told him, curse David, then who shall say, why have you done so? Then David said to Abishai and to all his servants, behold, my son who came out from me seeks my life. How much more now this Benjamite? Let him alone, and let him curse, for the Lord has told him. Perhaps the Lord will look on my affliction and return good to me instead of his cursing this day. So David and his men went on the way, and Shimei went along on the hillside parallel with him. And as he went, he cursed and cast stones and threw dust at him. And the king and all the people who were with him arrived weary, and he refreshed himself there. We see David, as he's leaving Jerusalem, he's being cursed by Shimei. And rather than stand up and try to defend himself, again, he says, if this is judgment from the Lord, so be it. Even in the face of punishment and exile and loss of power and authority, you see David's great trust, his confidence in the Lord. And in Psalm 3, we see David, his confidence there. In verse 3, he says, but you, Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, and the one who lifts up my head. David's confidence is in the Lord. His glory is in the Lord. And he knows that God is the one who is in control. And that's an important reminder for us, that regardless of what's going on around us, even when things are bleak and dark, we should have trust in the Lord. That we should hold fast to him, that we don't take personal vengeance, that we don't fill ourselves with pride or arrogance, but be humble and look to the Lord for salvation. And this is the thought I want to leave you with today. You look at verse 8. Salvation belongs to the Lord. May your blessing be on your people. We must always remember that salvation comes from the Lord, and it is His blessing that we seek. And the way that we gain His blessing is by making sure that we are His people, people who listen to His word and keep His commandments. I want to thank you for joining us today, and I hope that this reading of Psalm 3 blesses you and helps you throughout your day.